Amy had asked, did I ever try acupuncture and what are my thoughts on it? So I will tell you, Amy, that was the very first person that actually agreed that something was wrong with me. I had seen probably 7 or 8 different MDs, different subspecialties. I had seen primary care, I had seen endocrinologists, two of them, I had seen two hepatologists, I had seen two rheumatologists, I had seen all these doctors, and no one could tell me what was wrong with me. They all just kept saying, "You are our perfect patient, you are in the best health." And I was sick. I was so sick. I could barely see straight, barely think straight. I was crawling into their office and they're like, "Nope, you're great. There's nothing wrong with you. It's all in your head. You're perfectly fine. You're our healthiest patient." And a friend of mine then recommended an acupuncturist local in town where I live. And I went to see her, and she is an acupuncturist, and she's also a Chinese herbal specialist or Chinese medicine specialist. And I told her the whole story and kind of what had been going on, and like we went through all this trauma, and that I was exhausted and I was really bedridden. And she was the first person to ever tell me, "Oh yeah, you have adrenal failure." It was just like a light bulb moment. I mean, no one had even addressed my adrenals at this point. So yes, I am a huge, huge fan of acupuncturists, and in fact, till this day, I still go to see her for a tune-up, or once in a while, I'll go see her because she's just excellent, excellent. And I have actually talked to her about coming on these lives because I really would like to interview her. For people that don't have access to functional medicine doctors, or if it's just financially a burden for people, then I believe acupuncturists are just amazing in what they're trained to do. They can really help figure out and pinpoint the problem, but all the meridians and the channels and things that they work on, and then the acupuncture treatments that they use can really help reset you and can really help calm the immune system down that is just hypersensitive. So I'm a full believer, and the one I go to, she's just fantastic. So I hope to have her on the live one day and just to have an interview with her, just because she's so knowledgeable about everything, and she was really key in my healing journey. Now, after that, I went down this rabbit hole because then I saw a functional medicine doctor who then diagnosed me with SIRS and premature ovarian failure and MCAs and chronic fatigue and fibromyalgia. And then I got all these, diagnoses thrown at me and labels and all of that. So my journey ended up being a very, very different journey. But she is just one person who has stayed consistent in my journey. And like I said, till this day, I still go see her once in a while when I need it. And then Amy's other question was, and I'm just paraphrasing them, she had put a bunch of questions, but Amy's other question was, how do you heal and not have the urge to throw everything at once? Um, Again, this is where I would say, Amy, you have to do everything step by step. You can have so many symptoms, and when you read things, you're like, that's me, that's certainly me. And I was like that, but the thing is that everyone's journey is so different and everyone is so all over the place that it would just be really throwing stuff at you. Plus you don't know contraindications, you don't know things that are reacting, so it's very, it's really difficult to just say, "Oh, I'm going to take this supplement, that supplement," and throw everything at yourself and the kitchen sink. It's just a really tough thing to do. You really need to heal this step by step. And this is why I've suggested, I know earlier on too, but about seeing a functional medicine doctor, because they can take it at your pace and they can do all the tests that are needed to find out the root cause of what could be going on with you. Um, in functional medicine, we have this two tacks rule, that if you're sitting on two tacks on your butt, you're sitting on your butt and there's two tacks and it really, really hurts. And if you take one tack away, then the pain is not going to decrease by 50%. You're still going to have pain. And so, trying to just address your symptoms and saying, "Okay, I'm going to take this supplement and this medicine and take this, to help me with my brain fog, and this to help me with my pain," and, things like that, is just really taking one tack away. It doesn't take the two tacks away for you to be pain free. And so I really, really recommend that you see a functional medicine doctor who will help you get to the root cause of all the issues that you're having. But also for everyone else that is here, This is really critical in knowing that yes, you can read so much online. I mean, Dr. Google is amazing in giving you all the medical information that most MDs get in 16 years. You can get it in 16 seconds. Um, but again, every one of these things have to be looked at and tested by a physician or by a functional medicine practitioner, and then you can tackle how to address this. Um, Amy's other question was, and I really wanted to address this one because I know it's come up quite a few times. Do you think exercise helped you heal? Um, I'm actually going to say no. And in fact, I think because of how I'm type A and I kept pushing myself in the beginning, exercise made me a lot worse. And if you guys go back and listen to all the previous lives that I have done, especially the first and the second one, I exclusively talk about this journey of mine and how after almost 2 years of healing and putting in so much hard work, including a 6 day water only fast, when I did everything possible and I healed a little bit and I got better, and then I kind of pushed myself and I went to weight training very quickly and I crashed. So, do you think exercise helped me heal? No. In fact, it's really not necessary. And in the beginning, and when I say beginning, even a year or two, you almost cannot exercise because your adrenals are tanked. Your body, in my case, I was just reacting to any kind of, I think my body perceived it as stress again. And so I would just swell up and I would just really not be well. And I would just have so much pain afterwards and I'd be bedridden again. So I say this because we have this question a lot. Do not push yourself. I know someone else had posted a comment last week about how they really wanted to exercise and they were going to push themselves. I really, really suggest to take it very slow. Again, for all the people that are new on the group, and we've had just such an explosion of people in the group, which I very appreciate. Um, Please go back and watch the lives. I have them pinned on the top of the group, and they're really pinned in order of the dates they were done. And so you will see, I've talked so much about the different stages of how you should even exercise, whether you just start with grounding and earthing first, and standing outside on the bare grass with your bare feet, sitting on your front porch, to walking down your driveway a little bit, maybe some restorative yoga, maybe some qigong. I mean, very, very basic stuff. And this is even stuff that comes later on. Initially, you just need to rest and give your body the tools that it needs to heal. So, no, I do not think exercise is critical in helping someone heal. In fact, it might be detrimental if you push yourself too much. Um, the one thing I will say that instead, because I really did like exercising and it was just sad not to be able to exercise or anything, but I did like saunas a lot. I did saunas and I would do like the hot, if I went to the gym, I would not exercise in the gym, but I would use their sauna and then I would take a very, very ice cold shower. Or if I got in the jacuzzi and then I would get in like very cold water. Those actually helped me a lot more. And I also have talked about this in the previous lives. Um, about how as physical therapists we use contrast baths a lot, hot and cold, for inflammation, especially if you come to me with an ankle swollen or injury or whatever. We do a lot of contrast baths. So for me, I was just doing contrast bath for the whole body, where I would do sauna. I could barely handle 5 or 10 minutes in the beginning. Now I'm pretty good for 15, 20 minutes, but 5 minutes in the beginning, it's all I could handle. And then I would just do a cold, very cold shower. And really, what that helps with is a lot is inflammation, because you're causing vasodilation first, and then you're really causing vasoconstriction with the cold water. And so you're really pumping any of that fluid and inflammation out of there. But for me, that was extremely helpful. And I would feel so much better after the cold plunge. It just helped with my systemic inflammation. So even something as basic as that to start with would be very, very helpful, and nothing else. Um, and then the other thing with the cold plunges and even the cold showers, it really stimulates your vagus nerve. And so when you stimulate your vagus nerve, you really stimulate your autonomic nervous system, things you cannot control, like your heart rate and your metabolism. And it really takes you out of fight or flight mode, which is also very necessary in healing. Um, and so there's so many other things that you can do. I've talked a lot about grounding or earthing, and I'm a big fan of that. So there's so many other things that you can do which will actually benefit you more and help you more than exercising. Then your next question, because you had quite a few questions in one, you had said, how do I deal with this from a mental perspective? Not letting this thing get the best of me. Um, I think you mentioned something about you were having a tough time going on. And, in my case, I think I have young kids. And so that was a motivation for you or something like that, if I remember this question correctly. But I will tell you this is tough. This is a really tough journey. And especially for someone like me, I have mentioned this before, I was a go, go, go kind of person, 100 miles a minute, sometimes 200 miles a minute, and really just go getter, wake up at 4:30 in the morning and I hit the ground running. And I have three young kids, and I was an entrepreneur. I was a philanthropist. I was running some nonprofits, and I had businesses, and I was a PT, and I was just going. And I had three young kids. My husband was traveling a lot, so he had a very busy schedule. And to go from that to literally becoming horizontal overnight and not being able to get out of bed was really, really difficult. For someone who had exercised for 20 plus years as a physical therapist, I was really in great shape, and not being able to exercise one fine morning, it was just the toughest thing you can deal with. And I was so sick for 2 years, so sick. 1 year I was pretty much bedridden. And then the second year too, I was so sick. My poor husband, I would just sit there and just cry and just not understand why I was so sick and why I wasn't getting better. And I will tell you, from a mental perspective, that is really, really tough on anybody. But how did I deal with it? I just kept going. I have this personality of I will not let this get the best of me. This is not the end of my story. This is not how my story is going to end. I had decided that I knew too well how good it felt to feel amazing. I knew too well how good it felt to lead a healthy and pain free life. That this was not going to be my story. This is not going to be the end of my story. I would find a way to get out of this and figure it out. The doctors couldn't figure me out. Everybody kept saying I looked normal, I looked great, but I was not well. And so I said I was on a quest that if they can't figure me out, I'm going to use my background of, 15 plus years of practicing functional medicine and being a PT, and I just became my own advocate. You have to become your own advocate for your health. You really have to say, this is what is going on with me. This is what I would like to do, and this is where I would like to be. And I set these goals for myself, and they were very, very slow goals. Um, in PT, we have short term goals and we have long term goals. And I think in this case, my goals, I had a reality check. There was no short term goals. It had to be long term goals and long term goals that I set for myself that would be a year, 2 years from now, because I just knew it. I knew that I was going to fight this thing regardless of the fact whether I had young kids or that my husband, it didn't matter. I had to do this for me, and I had to get better for me. And that was what this just kept me going. I knew all too well how good it felt to be healthy, and that's where I wanted to get to again. And so you really have to keep that in mind, especially, not letting this get the best of you, Amy, and anyone else out there listening to this. You really have to just keep that in mind, that you have to figure a way to be an advocate for your own health and get out of this and make it through, because that's the only way. That is the only way. There's no way but up. When you fall down, there's no way but up. And so you have to make it happen. So that was my story, and that's how I decided to beat this and get out of it. Did the doctors miss your adrenal failure? Yes, I just mentioned about that, and I had 7 or 8 subspecialties look at me in those 8 months. 2 rheumatologists, 2 hepatologists, primary care physicians, 2 endocrinologists. Everyone kept dismissing me and sending me home. My physicians all said I was the healthiest patient they had. Yet I was so sick and they didn't believe me. Even an OBGYN said the same thing to me. She said, oh, you're just in menopause. No, I was not in menopause. So were you ever treated with meds for adrenals or thyroid? I was mentioning earlier on how my after that all of these doctors missed me and everything, I just went to an acupuncturist, and she was the first one who diagnosed me with adrenal failure. And so the endocrinologist that I was seeing recommended that I get on thyroid meds because my TSH numbers were climbing up. I mean, they weren't crazy. If I remember correctly, they were like 2.35, and then I think I went up to 3 and then 3.2. And she recommended that I get on thyroid meds, and I knew I didn't have a thyroid issue. You know, I told her with all due respect, I don't have a thyroid issue. Yes, my TSH is going up, but there's something else going on with my adrenals. Um, and all of that, which I again have talked about in one of the previous lives about the ovarian adrenal thyroid axis, and how if it's off balance, then you are going to have an imbalance and it's going to throw the entire stool off. You can't sit on that stool, it's not balanced. So I did not get on thyroid meds, but I just knew too much of what else could be going on. Um, Amy said I had several cortisone shots in my shoulders before all of this started. That will really do it. I mean, I very, very reluctantly a few years ago had to get a cortisone shot. And I remember having to do a Dutch test afterwards. And literally, I was flatlined. My entire cortisol curve was flatlined. And that was just with one cortisone injection because I was having just severe, I can't think, it was like neck pain. And they gave me one cortisone shot, and that's what it did to me. And that was the only time I've ever had any kind of cortisone shot or anything like that. So yeah, I can see how that could be the case. I wonder if I can trust Western medicine when they say everything is normal, yet I feel so exhausted and feel like I'm dying. Thankfully, never bedridden like you were, but deeply fatigued for 8 months. You know, the one thing I am going to say, even despite my long and arduous journey, I am not going to knock conventional medicine. It has its place. Conventional medicine doctors are very, very brilliant in what they do, and they go to very, very long lengths of education and school and research and all of that. So I am not one to put down conventional medicine. I think they go hand in hand. I think they have their place. But I do feel that for me, it had gotten to the end of the road there when I even saw a urogynecologist. I had seen every subspecialty you can think of, and they couldn't figure me out. And I think that that was when I just said, I'm going back to my functional medicine roots. This is what I've practiced. I'm trained in both. Obviously, as a physical therapist, I'm also trained in conventional medicine and health and all of that. But my other practice, has always been functional medicine. So I am not one to say that I can knock or not trust Western medicine, but I think it has its place. Again, I think you have to be your own advocate to really figure out your own health and how you can go from there. Um, and then last one from those long list of questions: Do you have any known infection? Do you have any infections through this? I've had chronic sinusitis and a few low-grade UTIs that really zapped my energy. Um, so for me, no, but I do know that there was a period in maybe 2015, 14 or 15, something like that. I did have a series of two, excuse me, a tickle in my throat. I think it was like 2014 or 15 that I had a series of sinus infections back to back. Excuse me, there's a little tickle. um, and so I am very, very reluctant to get on antibiotics, just given my background and kind of the natural and holistic practices that I do. But there was a time when I had those back to back sinus infections and I was in a lot of pain. I did have to get on some antibiotics. But that's the only time that I can think of that I had any kind of infection. I had a sinus infection and it had gone into like a double ear infection, and I was just really not well. That was the one time that I said, I would get on these on the antibiotics, and that was the only known infection that I've had through any of this stuff. But this was a really long time ago.